Yo, what time is it? It's time for the Gametime Guru to be on Channel 99. That's what's up. I got my boy Shane in here, the host of the Gametime Guru. He sits down with me and gives a little bit of insight into his podcasting world. Gets to hang out with ESPN analysts and chit-chat with coaches and professional players of all sorts. Talks about his esports miniseries. Who knew that college athletics had esports? I didn't. Boise State, they do. Who knew? Not I. So we dive a little bit into that, talk a little bit about some rollerblading and some skateboarding and friends getting kidnapped and bums getting stabbed. So anyways, stay tuned. Make sure you listen to the full episode. Give us 5 stars, and please share if you love the both of us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Shut up and sit down.
Let's get her rolling.
All right, dude.
Thank you for coming over.
I'm stoked, man.
Really
I'm stoked
appreciate
to be
it.
here. Yeah, man.
Gametime Guru, Shane.
That's me.
Thank you again. I appreciate you giving me at least an hour of your time to interview you.
Oh, dude, I'm excited to be here. This is an honor for me. It's
No way, dude.
It's exciting.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the last time I hung out with you, which was with Matt Jones.
Right.
That was a really fun podcast. And then the last time before that was when you interviewed me almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Right before I started jumping into this.
Exactly, dude. It's been a while now, huh? Yeah, it was before Matt's last fight. It's been a long time, actually.
Yeah. So what have you been up to? You've published tons of episodes, and I love your format, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very simple, to the point. It's something that when I drive to and from work, usually it's something that I can put on, and I can finish it without having to be like, oh, man, I got to go into work and wait for 2 hours before I can jump back on. Yeah.
Right. No, and I appreciate it. I've been trying to put episodes out, put as much content out, and be consistent. That was one of the biggest things. I was when I started this podcast, I was I got to be consistent. All the research I did was be consistent. And with everything going on, work life, everything's going on, you have to make sure that you still have that time. So that's why I only do 1 episode a week. I think it's simple. It's enough for me to keep it on every single Friday. And I'm trying to keep them within 30 minutes or so that like you said, people can listen to them and just on a drive, on a walk, at the gym, whatever. If you're on the stair stepper or something, just listen to it while you're doing cardio and then be done with it. You know what I mean? And it seemed to be getting pretty good results so far because of that. I've been able to reach out to a lot of people that way. So
yeah. And your show, for those who are listening, it is specifically based on sports in general, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's a sports podcast.
And I'm a huge gamer. I noticed, and I listened to a few of the shows, but with you did an e-gaming series.
Yes, a mini series.
And how many shows did you do?
So there was four interviews that I did for that mini series, and that specific mini series blew up. That was
so cool.
We had a feeling that was going to happen. It was a buddy of mine, actually, man. It was a buddy of mine at work who was like, dude, you know what you should do is an esports mini series. Because I've talked about esports a few times on the show already, and people were like, why would you do that? Because it's a sports podcast. But I'm like, no, listen, I'm taking a panoramic view of sports. This is what I wanted to do, is all things sports, and esports are getting huge. It's not your traditional sport. So I was like, that's a good idea. So I got these awesome guests all around. Facebook was a miracle in this sense. I was able to reach out, find somebody who'd gone to the Overwatch Grand Finals, which is the Super Bowl of Overwatch.
Yeah.
And he told me what it was like to go to that thing as a fan. I also got the owner of Idaho Gaming League, the founder of the Idaho Gaming League. He joined me and talked about his experience. It was just so many awesome guys. An apparel company that's an esports apparel company. I got a head coach at a college to come on the show, to do the miniseries. It was just so cool to get everybody's perspectives from different people: a fan, a coach, a business owner, and then a gaming league owner, and then a apparel company for esports, for gaming. I thought it was so cool, and it opened my eyes completely to the whole gaming world.
Well, and as a gamer myself, I never knew that there was college teams that did esports, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah,
esports.
It's esports. That's what they're calling it. You can get a scholarship to go play games now. At first I was like, dude, that's ridiculous. But people like yourself that like to game and stuff, I got a lot of buddies that like to game. They're like, no, that's cool. It's a cool opportunity for these guys, right? Because they have this this chance to do what they like to do and still get, an education out of it. It's giving them opportunities, and it's driving revenue for those universities. Boise State's got a team, and they're really good, actually. So it's kind of crazy. They're opening up all sorts of doors for these people, and that's another reason I wanted to put them on my show, because I'm like, this is a huge opportunity for esports, for gamers.
Totally. It's definitely a neglected market, in my opinion. Who covers esports outside of your online streaming? Is there any major platform like an ESPN or a Fox Sports or anything that'll cover these types of events?
Yeah, they just signed some TV deals. I believe ESPN got a deal with them to cover some of the major events. And then there's another television platform that just is covering them as well. But ESPN got part of it, so that's huge for them. It's huge for the whole entire gaming industry. But yeah, like you said, like Twitch, I think, what did Twitch just sign? It was like a 30, what was it? I can't remember.
Twitch is so big.
Just tons of money into that whole entire, somebody bought out Twitch, or somebody, like, I don't know, Twitch has the rights to something. But yeah, Twitch is the main platform for online gaming. But like, the major networks like ESPN just pulled them on. So I think it's going to be huge for the gamers, dude.
Well, it's definitely a different take on sports by definition, right? And when I think of gaming, most people, when they think of gaming, they think you're just sitting down being somewhat sedentary.
Right.
But if you think about it, you have to be athletic in a different capacity. I guess being able to solve puzzles quickly, or being able to diffuse situations, or whatever it might be. And what are the big games that are like out right now? Because I honestly don't know.
I don't know the games that are out right now. I just know the games that they use for the.
Well, I mean, like, the competitive games. Yeah,
you're looking at Overwatch. Overwatch is a huge one. You've got League of Legends is a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
Rocket League is another one that people are playing. Like Boise State's got a Rocket League team. But yeah, that's the main ones, I would say.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy though, dude, is I was listening, and as the coach for the my goodness, can't even think, Bellevue University, that's the guy who was on my mini series, he opened my eyes to that. I asked him a couple questions on the show about how they do their practices.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, do you guys watch film?
Yeah.
Do you guys like this and that? Like some of the topics we discussed were like performance enhancing drugs for gamers and stuff.
Ooh.
And it was interesting to hear the coach's perspective, because he says, for practices they have a structured practice schedule, and they have to they watch their own film to see where they could do things differently, and this and this and this, and how the players have to have a quarterback's mentality of like, hey, you made a mistake this last game, but because the match is like best out of 3, you've got to go on to the next one and completely forget about that, because the second your mind starts trying to think of something in the past, then it screws up for you. So it's interesting to see how serious they take it. It's not just like they actually have to like exercise their mind and really be focused. It's not just a bunch of lazy people. They're like, it's very intelligent people that are in these gaming leagues and part of these teams. I think it's awesome. It completely opened my eyes.
So I mean, comparatively to football, there are team leads, like with different types of tactics. Do they have plays essentially?
I asked about that too. I was like, do you guys have strategies you follow? And in certain games, I guess with Overwatch, they have like certain formations they'll do, just like to I don't understand the game 100%, but like it's just like any kind of shooter game. If you're on a team, there's ways that you can ambush teams, corner them, and stuff like that. And yet the way that you have to communicate with one another, and if one of your guys goes down, how you have to shift focus and completely change up your formation, because now there's a hole there and you have to adjust to that. So I mean, comparing it to other sports, it's the same thing. You have to adjust like that, and there are set strategies, I guess, and that's what they use those practices for. I would never have understood ever that I would never have thought, I guess, that you would have a 3-hour practice every single day for esports. But I learned the ins and outs of it through that coach specifically, who was telling me all about it. I'm like, my gosh, dude.
Crazy. Could you think about having like 2-a-days for 3 weeks?
Dude, that would be
for
ridiculous,
like a camp.
Dude.
They're just hardcore nerding out.
They're going, all the Adderall you can take, you know what I mean?
That's what I was gonna ask. So what kind of PEDs do they test?
So that was a huge thing that came up on, like,
because I get Adderall and I could game for days.
Dude, see, that was one of the big things. I think I saw it on a documentary on ESPN once or something. They were talking about esports. It wasn't even on my show, but they said something about like how unhealthy it is because people are on Adderall, they're on it because of medical, quote unquote, medical reasons, right? So they take it and then they're allowed to take it, but other people don't take it. But does it give you an advantage? And I would, I think anyone could say it probably does, as far as your fast
your
twitch, everything,
cognitive ability. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like everybody knows what that is, right? But and no one thinks of that as a performance enhancing drug or whatnot when you first say it, but you start getting into the nitty gritty. That's why they did this whole documentary on it. So I asked him, I said, hey, like, do you guys do performance enhanced drug tests and such for your team? Do you have to follow the same rules as the varsity sports at those schools, like the football programs and such? And at his university, they're an NAIA school. And he says, we do have to abide by all the NAIA regulations. But as far as the drug testing portion of it, he mentioned something about
it's
how
institutional.
It'd be very difficult, though, because you'd have to bring a third party in and this and that. So it's very difficult to regulate. But he said as soon as more universities start implementing, esports leagues and stuff as a varsity sport to get a scholarship and such, it's a very big possibility they're going to have to abide by the exact same rules. I mean, and you play college football, but like some of the rules are ridiculous for like college athletes. For instance, like I think the NAIA had a rule you couldn't have 15 milligrams of caffeine in your pee test. Like, come on, dude, that's like a Red Bull, and you fail it, you pop for a piss test. You know what I mean? So like
that's like a Diet Coke. I want to say a Diet Coke is like 30 milligrams.
No, it's more than that. Yeah, something like that.
Probably 50 milligrams.
I don't know how much
caffeine.
Actually filters or if there's anything like that in the thing, but there's like regulations or something that they're just ridiculous. So if they start doing that for gamers, they're probably going to lock down on Adderall and stuff like that too. It's pretty big deal.
There's stupid laws everywhere, right? I think in Idaho you can't have sex like missionary style with your shoes on.
Is that real life?
Yeah, like for real life. Like you can't bang a camel in Idaho or something like that.
Well, do you want to?
I mean, if you
come
want
on
to,
now,
go
man.
for it. I'll give that person a pass. Shoot,
Hey.
I'll give him $20. But. Sorry, I had to sip on some water real quick. That's crazy, though, esports. I wonder if there's any other types of performance-enhancing drugs outside of the normal uppers. Like if some people take downers or if there's any other types of drugs like concoctions that they take. Because, I mean, every sport, everything, they always have some type of drug or concoction that's going to enhance their performance, right? So in football, a lot of times they'd give us a bunch of like opiates,
right?
So we didn't feel our bodies when we're playing. And then a lot of us would take like a scoop of pre-workout before we go out on the field,
right?
And so we don't feel anything, and then we're just completely jacked up. And at that time, it was like Jacked 3D, the original NO Explode,
the real stuff
back in the day,
the good stuff,
the good stuff. So it's just very interesting, and the fact that it's a collegiate in their varsity programs at these levels.
They're varsity,
like
meaning you can get a scholarship to play. Yeah.
How about high school? Do you know if they're doing this in high school?
If they're doing drug tests or they're doing esports?
Well, I mean esports.
Yeah, they do. Like even Idaho, here in Idaho, they have one, and Boise State hosted it at their facility this last, I think it was April or May or something. You can Google it. I can't remember exactly. It was like in the spring or summer. But yeah, the high school championships for esports was hosted over at Boise State this last year. It's great.
Super cool.
Trust me, like I'm not a huge gamer, but I'm learning so much about it
It's
just by doing
awesome.
this podcast, dude. Like talking to people and networking, because it's like crazy to me how it's blowing up.
That's the reason why I love to podcast, is so that I can talk to people and learn about what they do and learn about why they enjoy what they do and, where their passions lie and what their goals are. I think that inspires me, and I hope that, this show imparts that on the people who listen to it. 'Cause I think that's important. But you dabble in everything, man. You've that's my dog. Yeah, girl. You dabble in all kinds of things, though. You interview professional athletes, coaches. How do you get your leads? How do you source your contacts? How does that go?
Man, it's a mixture of everything. That's a good question, though. Like, it's a lot of my own doing. It's a lot of failure, too. You know what I mean? And you reach out to a lot of people, and sometimes, more often than not, you either don't get a response or they say, nah. But as my shows continue to grow, right, like I think as I've had more guests on, more, I guess, well-known guests, like when I finally landed Adnan Virk, who's an ESPN analyst, and people in the sports world who watch ESPN, they know Adnan Virk. Like that's one of the biggest analysts on ESPN, and he was cool enough he was the coolest guy in the world, actually. Just like, yeah, sure, I'll do a show with you, man. And I just had to clear it with ESPN's PR, so I had to send them over some questions, and he was cool with it. As soon as I landed some of those guys, it kind of sucks that you have to say that, but like you land these bigger name guests, and all of a sudden when you reach out to people now, you're like, hey, here's my name. I'm Shane Larson. I host a podcast called Gametime Guru. I'll hit them up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, if that's the first initial contact I can make. And I'll be like, I've had guests such as, and I list out the guests, and they're like, oh, okay, well, Ferdinand Verk went on the show. Like, it sucks that you have to do that, but it's built my resume enough to where I don't see as many failures as I used to see. You know what I mean? So it's mainly a lot of my own doing. I've had a couple people reach out to me, a local fighter, Kyle Aslami, which was a really cool interview. He reached out to me via Instagram, and I think it was kind of word of mouth. Maybe Matt Jones or someone had mentioned it to him, and just like randomly, like sometimes I'll have people like I'll reach out on Facebook. I'll be like, hey, I need a recommendation. I need to interview a referee who's got a connection with a referee for sports. Dude, I had like 6 or 7 people just like tag some people on there, and I got a connection. I was like, okay. So you have to be creative, in the way that you reach out to people, because some people might, like a lot of people in the sports world use Twitter, and Twitter might be dead to a lot of people, but the sports world uses Twitter all day long. That's like where sports people lie. Like you want to get live tweets during a game. It's the best thing in the world. The threads going on during that time. So I'll reach out on Twitter. Instagram, you'll usually have more of the older crowd. Well, I shouldn't even say older crowd. It's like our age, 30s to 40s, 50, maybe 30s to 40s, you get them. And then Facebook is a whole different demographic. So you kind of have to just kind of have to utilize all the resources you can get. And that's what I do. I'm reaching out to people all the time. Like there's times where I'll have like, I get scared about it because sometimes I'll have a week where I have like 4 or 5 interviews I got to get done and get them all edited and everything, because I end up getting such a good response. And there's other weeks I'll throw out 10 or 15 requests, don't hear back from any one of them. So you just kind of have to keep going and try to just keep building your resume. It's a lot of failures though.
Do you just think of somebody and you're just like, all right, well, maybe I'll just find them on Facebook or Instagram and just shoot them a message with a link to my page or something like that? Because you've got a really good network. You have a newsletter. You do more than what I do, man. Like you've got a full-blown...
I've got a studio.
Well, but but as far as like your, I guess, your incorporation of your brand and being able to really define it, I think you've done a really good job. You've got, like I said, your newsletter. You're published everywhere, basically on audio.
Try to.
Yeah. It's kind of hard in some places, I guess. Takes a while with, I don't know, Spotify and stuff like that, I guess. Are you on Spotify?
Yeah, I'm on Spotify
I
now,
figure
but
you're everywhere.
Spotify's a huge one, yeah.
Yeah, I think, and they require so many like episodes and certain quality and blah, 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 blah. But I mean, that's good because it improves the community as a whole. You want to improve the quality of the content in general. You don't want a bunch of shitty podcasts. Dude, there's so many times where I will subscribe to a podcast and the logo's dope, and I look at like the episodes and they're like 30 episodes in, and I'm like, all right, well, they've had time to kind of fine tune their equipment and get everything good and like figure out how their flow should be and stuff like that.
Right.
And I get to like their last 3 episodes and I'll try to listen to them. I'm like, these sound absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Like, it's unfortunate because they spend that much time. For me, when I'm doing my podcast, and only recently, my shows are kind of long. On average, an hour and a half. And some of them go 4.5, 5 hours.
Right.
But for me, I try to listen to every episode that I can while I'm working. I'll just kick out a raw MP3 and shoot it to my phone, and I'll just listen to it on the car ride to work and say, all right, well, it needs to be balanced here, here, and here.
Right.
But that's really all I do. I don't edit anything. I just record an intro. I throw the intro on there. I have a template built into into my software that automatically kicks it out to what I want for my video template and everything like that, and then my audio. But yeah, for me, I think it's important because when I hear other content, it makes me want to improve myself in certain areas.
For sure.
And I always now, when I'm producing stuff, I always listen to like, oh shoot, what did my last episode with this person sound like? Did their voice sound the same? And I'm almost OCD about stuff like that.
Yeah, I got you.
But you kind of have to be when you're investing so much time into creating a brand. I think the most difficult part about it is figuring out what you want or how you want to brand yourself as. You know what I mean? Because that's something I've struggled with producing. Because I went
It's
from
hard.
1 show to 5 in like the last 4 months.
Right.
So
It's extremely hard, dude. Like it's a good point to bring up there, because when I first started my podcast, what a lot of people don't know, unless they were like following me from the very, very beginning, which was just close friends and family, whatever, it was called 208 Sports Review. So my podcast is called 208 Sports Review. And I did like 4 episodes of it, and we were having fun, and it was just normal sports talk. And I was like, I had to take and this is what sucks is like as podcasters, you have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to your shows, which everybody hates hearing themselves, but you have to listen to your shows and kind of have to listen to your content and say like, would I listen to this if it wasn't me? Like, would I be listening to this? And then I did that, and I was like, this sucks, dude. Like, for one, the name was garbage. Like, it wasn't catchy at all. It was the stupidest name. My logo sucked. And then I had a buddy of mine look into it, and he goes, you know what? Like, the area code 208, it might change for us. Who knows in the future, you know? And he's like, you need to change your name. So I spent like another 6 weeks. I cut my show off completely, and I spent 6 weeks trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I decided, I was like, you know what? I don't want to just do sports talk like normal. Here, let's talk about stats all day long. It's fine to have that in there, but I was like, I want to interview people, get to know people from all over the sports world. And I was like, that's where I'm going to do it. And it took me I'm not very creative, but it took me a long time to come up with Gametime Guru. I thought that was like, for me, that was really creative because it took a long time to figure that out. So I had to rebrand it, decide, you know what, I'm going to take a panoramic view on sports, grab people from all over the sports industry, let them come onto my show and tell their story. I'll just ask them questions. I'll interview them. I'll let them tell their story. And then we'll chit chat. But I want to learn about their sport and their story to show my listeners, because that's more interesting to me. And so I figured if I'm more interested in it, then my listeners will be more interested in it, because it will come through in my quality of content. Like when I'm talking, my passion will come through. So that was huge for me. Branding yourself, it's tough. You have to figure it all out. And once you find it, though, and you start going, then it's fine. But yeah, it's a big deal. It's tough. It's tough to try to figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah, totally. With how many people you've interviewed, what's your take on talent? Do you believe there's natural talent, or do you believe that people work for what they have and what they've accomplished?
Talking about the people that I've interviewed and like just kind of what I've learned about their...
just in general, like with interviewing such a dynamic crowd of athletes with different backgrounds, I would think that you would probably form both a personal and a professional opinion,
right,
on whether or not these people are naturally gifted or whether or not these people have just worked. Right. Like somebody, I don't know, maybe you would look at LeBron James and say he's just naturally gifted as a freak of nature and an athlete. And then you look at Michael Jordan, who has campaigned hard work his entire life.
Right.
What is your take on that?
Well, let's take a look. This is one of my my favorite quotes. It's something to the effect of, talent is something you're born with, and then skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of working on your craft. So I do believe that like it's talent versus skill. There's a lot of like, most of the people I've interviewed are some part in the sports industry, whether they're a referee, they're business owner, they're whatever they are, or an athlete themselves. I think they're born with this talent, and I think everybody is born with a talent, but their skill that got them to that level, whatever it may have been, if it was professional baseball, whatever at the minor leagues, if it was professional basketball overseas, or whatever it was, or if they're a sports analyst like Adnan Virk, you could tell he was born with that passion and the talent to do it, but the skill of actually being a sports analyst like he is was developed by like his hard work. So the majority of those people, and what my honest opinion is on this, is the fact that they're probably all born with the talent, obviously, because the talent's there. Like they have that talent, but as far as the actual skill to get them to the level that they're being able to perform at, that's developed through hard work. So I do believe you're born with the talent. I think that's something you're born with, but I think that to be able to do it at a high level, that's through hard work.
So another way to explain that would be talent is your ability to grasp onto and attain a high level of expertise in a certain thing. And skill is like somebody who's talented and somebody who's skillful can be at the same level, but if you have the talent, it probably would take you a lot less time to get to that level of expertise than somebody who's just put in the hard work and they're at that skillful level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Like they're able to do it. Somebody who's like got that talent, they understand it quicker, they're able to apply it better, and they're able to reach a level of expertise a lot quicker than somebody who might have that skillful asset. But that person who had to put in the hard work and whatnot probably doesn't have the talent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's a good discussion to have. It's like a good debate because, like, even for Michael Jordan, for instance, let's keep it on the topic of sports because that's what I talk about, right?
Yeah.
Some would say that because he got cut from his varsity team when he first got into high school, like, he didn't make the varsity team, that he didn't have the talent. Well, no, he was born with the talent to play basketball. Like, he knew how to shoot a basketball. Like, he was dribbling a basketball when he was like 4 years old. Like, that's the stories you hear about it all the time. He may not have been as talented as some basketball players. He kept working until he got to the skill set that he was at, which was a high level basketball player, greatest to ever play, arguably, right? I still think that he had the talent. It just took him a little bit longer to develop the high-level skill set of being one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. So, to me, I think that they're still born with it. It's not like he just, like, it wasn't like he didn't have the talent at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was born dribbling a basketball. He just, some of them maybe had to grow into his body a little bit more. Even in the NBA, for crying out loud, Michael Jordan was a weak guy. That's why his main thing it was in his first 7 years. He couldn't get past the Pistons. He was too weak, so he had to put in the time into his body. Whereas LeBron James was gifted with this like freakish stature, so he never really had an issue with his body. Like, that's one of LeBron James' biggest like factors. He's a monster. He always was. I mean, 6'8", 260 when he's coming into the league is huge, but I mean, he had to develop in other areas. But I mean, so Michael Jordan was talented. He just didn't have like that high skill set immediately. Whereas I think LeBron he'd probably developed that skill set very early compared to some other basketball players or other high talented athletes, I guess, if you will, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a tough thing to like try to gather my thoughts and say it out loud.
Well, and it's an argument I've heard from a lot of different people who are in a lot of different types of disciplines.
Right.
And you see it in some, you're like, oh man, that dude's just talented because that's what the way I would describe it is if somebody came in and they just naturally grasped onto the concepts and whatever it might be of what they're trying to learn. You're like, oh, dude, that guy's talented at that specific thing. You know, he may not have the greatest balance, but maybe it doesn't require balance, right?
Right.
So I guess it depends. Maybe everybody is talented and they just need to figure out where their talent lies.
Yeah, like you're talented at dribbling a basketball, but you can't play defense, or you don't understand how to get a rebound, but you can shoot a basketball. Like, I don't know. And so you have to work on those other things. But that specific talent might, I guess, help you in that skill set, but you have to work harder at these other ones to develop a full-rounded basketball player. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. That's a hard discussion. Why are we getting on to talents, dude?
I don't know. It was well, I mean, because you talked to a lot of athletes, and I've been an athlete, still an athlete, so I like to hear a little bit about talent. I don't think I have any God-given talent. I think I've worked my ass off for everything I've done my entire life in every possible way.
So is it a negative thing to say that you have like a God-given talent? If we say that guy is like he was born that way, so that's what I'm wondering. So okay, because that's what I still think that if someone's born with a talent and they get to a level that they are, I mean, I think it's amazing. They still have to put in hard work to get to the level where they're at and sustain that. So that's in my opinion. Like, I don't think I'm very talented with a lot of things, but like I work hard. I was gifted with, you know, the ability to speak to people and interact with people and stuff and have an influence on people. But there's other things I'm not very good at. But I still think I work hard at my skill set and everything like that. So I don't know. I don't think it's a knock if people have a God-given talent and they work with it. I mean, I think it's actually it's huge. If you're blessed with something and you work on it to develop and you know, develop that craft and you're highly skilled at it, I think it's awesome because you're like, oh, I was gifted with this and I better use it.
Those are typically the people who are successful in life. They see where their strengths lie and
they just
where their
execute.
Opportunities lie, and they execute.
There you
totally. Go. Yeah, they don't see them as weaknesses. They see them as opportunities to improve themselves. And I mean, you see it in, you know, many professions nowadays. And humility, I think, is probably one of the best ways that they communicate that.
Right.
For the most part, you know, they understand that they've been gifted with something, and some people don't. You know, some people work their asses off. Conor McGregor, you know, if you watch his. I mean, that guy wasn't he wasn't the most talented individual, but he worked.
Yeah, he worked hard.
And he still works hard. He still wins. Except against Mayweather.
You think he's going to win?
By the way, Mayweather Pacquiao.
What do you think about that?
Oh, I think Pacquiao's got him, dude.
You think so?
Pacquiao's on a roll, man. He's dude. That guy doesn't get old, man. But Mayweather doesn't get old either. Both of those classes, like that age group and that weight class, and both of like considering Filipinos don't ever get old,
dude,
and black people don't ever get old.
It's true though.
They don't. They could fight in their 50s and they'd still look better than most like fighters out there, man.
I still think Mayweather's got him though.
You
like
think
Mayweather's just like, for some, I don't.
He's slick.
He's got it. Like he works out every day. He probably eats so clean too, because like he looks like a Greek god. Like every time I hate him, but he looks like that, and I still think he's gonna dominate if they do it. If they really go through with this thing, I don't think Pacquiao wins. I lost money on Pacquiao last time, so I'm kind of bitter towards him on that first Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. Like, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take the underdog on him. That's when I was still sports betting. I've given that up, but I was putting some good money down, and I was like, dude, I just lost a couple $100 off Pacquiao. So I was kind of bitter towards him, and that's why I don't think I'm ever gonna root for him again.
They got sued for that fight by a lot of people because Pacquiao went in with that
torn
shoulder
labrum.
tear.
Yeah, he tore his labrum.
Was it his labrum?
I thought it was his labrum.
His,
it was a rotator cuff.
Rotator cuff. One of the two, but he had surgery right after.
Yeah.
And they they sued him. I think they sued the network, and then the network had to like countersue or something.
Well, it was his team didn't tell anybody about that though, because he apparently told them not to say anything because we want to keep this going, because obviously he can get paid to fight. So yeah, that was kind of bogus. You could tell if you ever watched the fight. I watched it 3 times, and the second time I watched it, I was just like, dude, Mayweather destroyed this guy. And then the third time I watched it, I was focusing specifically on Pacquiao's shoulders. His punches were so weak. They were terrible. Had no snap in him after like the 3rd, 4th round. I was like, yeah, he did have a hurt shoulder. Whether people think that was a cop-out or not, like he had a hurt shoulder. Unless he was just awful. But no, he legit couldn't hit. Like he was like slapping him. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, and if you see the fights leading up to it, obviously he was not the caliber.
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on this next fight.
We'll see.
When is that slated for?
Didn't they say it was this next year? Like he said,
so.
he said it was. I think he said 2019.
Like
so
in the beginning.
I don't know
Probably
when.
like
He just said 2019. They throw out a number so that it gives you a 12-month window.
Yeah.
Keep the suspense. What about McGregor and Khabib? What do you think's gonna go on with that?
I'm the wrong person to ask about MMA. I don't follow MMA, although I host an MMA show and stuff like that. I followed enough as far as what they bounce back and forth in the studio here and every now and again. But I honestly know that they're both really good. I've seen McGregor fight. I haven't really seen Khabib, right?
Yeah, Khabib.
Yeah,
I've never watched
really
him either.
seen him fight,
and
but
I'm an MMA fan.
I've heard he's like good though.
I just love McGregor though, dude. I'm a McGregor fanboy. Like I don't want him to lose. So.
And what's his record?
I don't know. I don't know his actual MMA record.
A lot in one.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Dude, I love him, man. I just don't want him to lose.
He's fun. He's very flamboyant, and I think that's his persona and his branding.
Yeah.
He definitely does that well.
He did a good job, man.
Yeah.
Got him paid.
He kills it. He probably will win this fight. From what I understand, Khabib's like a ground game guy.
You're talking to another guy that doesn't know too well. I don't know his fighting style. I do follow MMA, but I don't follow Khabib, so I don't know.
Well, let's. I'll put a couple bucks on McGregor because I don't follow anything, but he wins.
Okay,
so
sounds good.
Yeah. Who's the most interesting person you've had on your show?
Ooh, that's a good question, man.
You've had so many people.
You've
had 80 plus episodes.
So I'm on episode 79 this week, but I've got 4 in the queue going forward because I publish one a week. So I've got up to 83 now that are ready to go. So yeah, it's crazy. Oh man, you were a great one. Let's just be real. Like you were a guest of mine.
Thanks.
And so that was legit. It was talking about your experience in college football and such, and that was awesome. But there's been some really interesting people, like just right now, like just right before I got over here, man, I was talking to Paul J. Schneider, who was the voice of the Boise State Broncos from 1973 to 2008. So he was one of my favorite play-by-play broadcasters. So it was kind of cool listening to, like, getting to talk to him. And that hasn't published yet, but I obviously have to go back and, like, edit everything and make sure it's all set to go. But and that won't be for a month. But he was awesome. Adnan Verk was great. But you know what? My favorite episode and the most interesting was Roberto Bergerson, and he was a Boise State basketball legend here. He was my favorite player growing up. Like, everybody used to ask me, like, who's your favorite player? And I was a Jazz fan. I was like, they always thought it was going to be John Stockton or Karl Malone. I was like, no, dude, it's Roberto Bergerson. He was my favorite player, basically because I went to all the Boise State games when I was in 4th grade, and that's when he was playing. He got drafted to the NBA. Favorite player in the world. And his whole interview, he talked about his experience, the whole draft day experience, the whole offseason as a rookie, and then why he got cut from the Blazers when Scottie Pippen came over and basically took, like, I mean, it was kind of like this crazy story that none of us knew here as Boise State fans. And even as his biggest fan, like, I had no clue why he didn't make it on the Blazers squad, but why he was playing overseas and playing in the D League at the time. And it was cool to interview him and get to know him. And plus, that also got me to have a connection to where I could actually talk to him as like a friend now. I was like, I got to reach out to my idol, as my childhood idol, and then talk to him and hear his whole experience. But the reason I say it was the most interesting was even the people that listened to it from my work were like, dude, that interview was awesome, because we didn't know anything about that, but just hearing his whole life story was really cool. So I would say he was probably the most interesting.
That's way cool. I wish I could interview some of my childhood idols, but they're all fake. It's like Superman and I didn't really watch sports as a kid. I watched the Jazz a little bit.
Okay.
But I mostly skateboarded. So I guess most of my idols were like skaters. Yeah. Eric Custin.
Why don't you do a skating podcast, or are you doing that?
I've tried to, man. I've reached out to like my old skater homies, and I've even sent out like mass like updates, like, hey, I need skater dudes to come on my show. I want to like do a skate show. Nobody's reached back out to me, but the two people who do want to come on the show are two of my good friends. And one skates for Chocolate and Lakai.
Okay.
And the other one is the main producer for like California Kitchens. The last time I talked to them, they're actually working with me with my nutrition line. So they're trying to get my nutrition line into the skate community, because now they're trying to go all like clean living, working out. They all hit the gym now.
So they're not just worthless, right?
Right. And the California Kitchens, and the California Kitchens producer, he's also a freelance cinematographer. So he does like he films X Games, like when on the weekends he calls like pro skaters. He hangs out at like Bucky Lasic's house and like chills with like big name dudes.
Name drop right there, dude. I haven't heard Bucky's name for a while.
Yeah. He hangs out with a lot of pros. Basically, his like side job. It was his full-time job up until recently. But his full-time job for Ride Channel was to just call pro skaters and go skate with them all day. And he just traveled the world. He just got tired of living out of a suitcase, man. And I get that. It's been, 10 years living out of a suitcase, like skating every day. Like that just gets old, dude. Any traveling in general. And skating puts a lot of wear and tear on your body. Yeah. So he's at the point where I think, he's had his fun, and he still does freelance stuff. He still travels in films. But yeah, so dipping into that. So those guys are lined up. There's a few other people who have said they want to come on, but
dude, I'll come on, man. Let me talk about my fruit booting experience, dude. I was a fruit booter, homie.
You should talk about it right now.
Let's talk. Yo,
let's totally talk about it. I knew this. Yeah, so, we talked about this on our
3 years, dude. And everybody, like, I was just telling my wife about this. We were walking by Tully Park, because we kind of live over by Tully Park. And I was telling her about the 11-stair handrail. It's like, yeah, I could grind this back in the day. This is cool. And I was like, I was one of the few that could do handrails. Like, handrails was my thing, right? Like, I didn't have the biggest hops. I had a couple buddies that skated with me. We were fruit booters. Yeah. They could do gaps. They could do vert. They could do a lot of other stuff. They could grind ledges. And people don't understand, dude. Like, I was trying to explain the difference to my wife. I was like, see this ledge right here? That's like it rounds all the way around. I was like, it's hard for me to grind on like a square edge. I couldn't grind. I didn't have the right balance for it. I had a really good buddy of mine who could do ledges all the time. But my specialty was handrails. Like, I wasn't scared of handrails. Didn't matter how big the stairs were. And like I said before, I think I told you this, but I was the third person that we know in history. I was 15 years old at the time that grinded the 21-stair handrail. It was called the Beast at Boise State University behind the Morrison Center. One of them was a pro. Another one was from Mountain Home. And then there was me. And so I literally tried that like 8 times. I failed 7 times. I'd go halfway down the stairs, fall off, and I'd just skim my knees down the stairs. I was getting busted up. On the 8th try, boom, hit it all the way down. Little bit of was it a soap grind? I can't remember what it was. Man, I can't even think of the name.
Soap grind. That's an old school name.
Dude, like,
remember soap shoes?
Dude, soap shoes. Yes, dude. Oh my gosh, like grinding shoes. But there was like, dude, for fruit booters, we had all sorts of grind, like Mizu, Royale, soap. Porn Star was even a grind that we had. Like, there's all sorts of grinds by changing up your footing and everything. But yeah, I did the grind all the way down the 21-stair handrail, man. I was one of the few people that's actually done that and can say they've done it. It was crazy. It was a crazy handrail.
That's a big-ass handrail.
Dude, it was huge, and it was so fast.
Yeah, I remember watching Kyler try that back in the day.
Dude, yeah.
We never landed that.
Mm-hmm. That one's hard.
But we set up a bunch of, like, wood plats at the end, right? Because isn't it, like, kind of drop off at the end, or no?
So at the end of it, no, it goes on
to... Oh, no, it goes on to the... it like goes on to stairs down and then boom, 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 right?
So
Like straight.
There's like at the very bottom is just like the walkway for where Boise State's at, right? So like there's this like walkway where people can drive their little golf carts and stuff for the cars, and then there's like a grass area. So you hit, and then like 5 feet in front of you is just all grass. Like there's a ledge and there's grass right in front of it. That's what I had. Like, dude, when I landed it, there's 3 times. So the third time was when I landed. So 2 other times, I actually got all the way down the stairs. I was flying so fast that I probably bailed off about 8 stairs high and still landed on the ground because I was flying down.
Dude, that's
steep.
so scary.
And I hit the ground, and I fell twice. I landed it and then slipped because I was going so fast that I hit the ground. It actually hurt more than when I fell on the handrail and skimmed down the stairs. Like when I hit the ground and then slipped, just because I was going so fast, it hurt. The time that I landed it, my body was busted up. It's my 8th try total. When I jumped off and I hit the ground, I just swung my body forward, and I just remember like within like half a second I hit the ledge to get into the grass, and then I just stumbled and kept my footing, and then we all just screamed and everything. But yeah, it was like very small landing spot. It's cool, dude. I love my skating days. Dude, fruit booting was the thing. Everybody made fun of us. It's like, no, man, we had a good crew back then.
There was a good crew down at Rhodes with Kyler and what's his face, the pro later. What's his name? He was all over the place. He rode for K2 and stuff.
Did he roll with Kyler all the time?
All the time.
See, we looked up. Kyler was like a god to us back then. I think I've told you that before too.
Kyler was fun.
Kyler was like,
he was a cool dude.
We'd always go to the skate parks. Like, oh, Kyler's here, dude. Like, dude, it was like, dude, he was the man.
First time I met Kyler, I saw him rack himself.
Did it really?
So bad at the old Eagle skate park. He was trying the handrail over by the bathrooms, the big handrail that goes all the way down. So he had a ramp set up, and he hits this ramp, and we were skating, and we were like, oh, let's check this dude out. He's hitting this rail over here, and he was like hitting it and bailing. You could see him touching it and jumping off because he was getting close, but he couldn't lock into the grind that he was trying to do. And we go over there, and we're like, yeah, you got this, dude. And he flies, and he launches off of this kicker, and he locks in. He does great, and he's going like 10, 15 feet, and all of a sudden he unlocks, and right on the crotch, dude, he just gets split, bro, and he falls down, and he is just like holding himself, legs crossed, and we're sitting there laughing our asses off.
Dude, that's the worst though.
But that was a beast handrail, and we had a lot of respect for him after that. Turns out that was in 9th grade. Turns out he ended up going to high school with me,
right?
And we used to hang out all the time. His parents, they adopted a girl from China when we were like, I want to say we were like juniors in high school, maybe sophomores. She was like 3, and that's when Yao Ming first entered the NBA back in like 2000, 2002 or something like that.
Yeah, back in the day.
So every time we saw her, we'd be like, Yao Ming. So the only word that she knew for like 2 years, the first word that she would like say to us all the time was always Yao Ming.
Dude, that's tight.
Yeah. So, man, that she's probably 20 years old now. That's weird.
Yeah, that's really weird, dude. That's
How old
weird.
are you?
I'm 30. I'm not as old as
man.
you, and I still feel way old.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, Kyler was good. Like, I have a funny story about that at the Eagle Skate Park too, because he was a really chill guy. Like, he was really chill. He wasn't confrontational. And dude, did I have boogers in my nose?
No, you're good.
Okay,
dude.
I don't care. That's no shame here. I hope you don't mind me asking that here on the show. It's really bugging me. I feel like I got something right there.
No, you're good.
So, yeah, I do, dude.
You might, but I can't see anything.
Can you guys see anything? Let's see. I don't know.
I don't think anybody can see anything.
So-
You're good. You can pick it. Nobody cares. I don't care.
It's bugging me. It feels like I don't know if there is. So we're at the Eagle Skate Park, dude, and there's these skateboarders. Wonder if it's you. I don't know, but they were giving him a hard time because he was a fruit booter. We always got made fun of. They're giving him a hard time, and every time he was trying to do this skate. So he took from the whole other side of the skate park, goes over the ramp, goes, and on the other side he was trying to do. I think it was a 720. I don't know what he was trying to do, or he was trying to flip out of the bowl. And every time he'd go over there and he'd get through his whole run and come up on the other side, they kept pretending like they were going to hit him with their skateboard, so it would throw him off and he'd have to bail.
Yeah.
And he'd do it every time. It happened like 4 or 5 times. Well, we're younger at the time. Like, I was like 14, and I'm assuming he was 17, 18 years old. He was older than us by a couple of years. Always really chill with us, though. And he comes out of the bowl. It was like out of nowhere. He comes out of the bowl, didn't even try to flip. The guy was pretending to hit him with a skateboard. He just flies right into him, shoves him, and just started the whole thing like, okay, here we go. And then like everybody kind of gets in a little scuffle, and nothing really happened. No punches were thrown, but it was like, okay, knock it off. They didn't do it anymore. Totally. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Kind of like just did your thing.
Yeah.
You were done with it. He's fed up and came out of there like the chillest guy in the world. Just was like, okay, piss off. I'm coming after you. So it was pretty sick. I was like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
We were all hyped up back then because we were like the fighter kids, the fighter skaters, and he wasn't one of those. Like he was like just chill all the time.
That's so funny because there was such a beef between like the skaters and the fruit booters and the BMXers. When I skated, it was between the BMXers and the skaters, really. Like the rollerbladers. Because I hung out with Kyler and his crew of buddies in high school, just because we all did extreme sports and we hung out together, and whatnot. We didn't have any issues because my friends knew him, because I knew him, and all those guys.
Yeah.
But it was always the BMXers, man. Those are the dudes always trying to start fights with me and start fights with all my friends. And we're sitting here like, dude, this is a gang of like 20 skaters and there's like 5 guys on bikes. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
like, let's be real, man.
And the bikers, and what's funny about that, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but the bikers that were around here, even back then, like, they sucked. They weren't even good. Like, it's hard to be a biker. Like, BMXers, that's a skill set that's really, really tough, right? Like, it's not easy to do. Like, tell someone to drop in on a half pipe with a BMX bike, guarantee they're not going to be able to do it. Like, it's very difficult unless you know what you're doing. But they sucked. Like, all the BMXers sucked, dude.
They did.
Back then. It was terrible. So I was like, dude, just get off the skate park. And I was just telling my wife this. There's scooters and bikes all over at Tully Park now. I was like, this was a rule back then. Like, if we saw a biker or a scooter, like, you weren't allowed to be on the skate park because, like, for one, your wheels will screw up the freaking ground, make it slippery, make us all fall. 2, you're taking up too much space and you suck.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even good. Like, you can't grind anything, so get off the freaking skate park.
It's a skate park. It's not a bike park. You know?
It used to piss me off. That's all there is there now, though. It pisses me off.
And I haven't been down there. I need to. I go down there for events and stuff because a lot of my friends, they fly into town, and that's when I get to see a lot of my buddies who I don't get to see a lot of the times anytime anything skateboarding goes down. So I haven't had the opportunity to go and see the daily crowd over there, but I can only assume that it's gotten worse. We started seeing scooters pop up probably. The only time I saw a kid with a scooter was back in, I want to say I was like in high school maybe, and it was a kid who was from Germany. He was a foreign exchange student, and he had some type of like a razor scooter, but it didn't have handles on it. It had like a knob on it instead of like a handles. Okay. And this guy was awesome, and he shredded, and we had hella respect for him. He was like 14, maybe 15. He was like super young, maybe a 9th or 10th grader at the oldest, foreign exchange student. But he had a thick accent, and he wore all of his elbow knee pads and stuff, and people would make fun of him until they saw him hit the half pipe. And this kid would and it's a mini pipe, not a full pipe, so it's a 6-foot vert,
6
right?
foot, yeah.
But I mean, he would hit this thing and he would like whip that. I don't know the lingo or whatever it is that they have, the name of tricks, but he would do like a 180 with his body, and he'd whip that thing like the opposite direction like 3 or 4 times, catch it midair and just slam it and just keep going. And he would like clear the pyramid with like tail whips or whatever you want to call it. Like, the guy was unreal on a scooter, and it was cool because he could grind. He'd go up on the half pipe and he would grind across it. Like, the guy was good. The kid was good, but he was the only one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And nobody razzed him when they were down there, like, just because he shredded. But if you suck and you're older, get out of there. If you're like 11 and you're on like a scooter, you should probably get your parents to take you like to your backyard and build you a box and to build you like, or go like around the. When I was a kid, we would just go hit curbs. We'd go wax up curbs in the neighborhood.
Wax it up.
You wax up the curb next to your house, in front of your house.
Dad gets pissed at you because you chipped everything, but you do what you got to do.
Exactly. Your gap is your sidewalk when you're a kid.
Gosh,
my parents never drove us. Yeah, I would take the bus to the skate park at 12. My parents would give me $2, and they'd say, take the bus. And so I'd pay 50 cents to go there, 50 cents back, and I had like $1 to get like 29-cent hamburgers, 32-cent cheeseburgers, when I'd go downtown at McDonald's. Because I was young,
Dude,
you were
tight.
probably getting that too, right? I was there when my friend got kidnapped by a guy.
You told me that. That's insane,
I did tell you that.
I can't believe it. I still remember that story to this day. Like, I always talk about it because you told me that on my podcast. What?
Taking the bus, man. I'm not hanging out with this creep. Yeah. Wild, dude. The skate park was a good time, though. Saw a guy get stabbed. I had a lot of fun, man.
Dude, you were hanging out at Rhodes, though. Like, the downtown's, it's much better now.
Yeah.
But, dude, my gosh. Like, back then, it was like bum
sketchy.
central, man. Like I still feel uncomfortable sometimes going down there. I'm like, but yeah, good times.
It's
man.
definitely better now, especially since there's been a lot more exposure. I think it's it's lit up a lot better.
Yeah.
And they used to not have it lit up. I think it was probably maybe in like 2002, 2003 when they turned lights on, and they would turn the lights on until 2 a.m. And then they would turn them off back in the day. It might be 24 hours now. I don't know. But they used to keep the lights on until 2 a.m. And I would skate until sometimes 2 a.m. until lights turned off.
Yeah.
You know, in high school, if I was having a bad night, you know, I would just go down to the skate park and I would just go skate at like midnight, you know, on a weekend. Even in college, I would go down there at like 12:30. I'd go be at a party hanging out with people, and I'd be like, this is lame. I'm going to go skate. And I'd go skate.
Dude, skating.
Yeah.
The good old days, man.
I wish I could still skate. My knees are just too bad, man. I tried to skate the other day.
Did you really?
I did.
Can you do any kick flips anymore or any kind of thing? Or any?
I was just trying to push, man. The way my knee, the implant I have in my knee, it just puts too much pressure on that spot, and it just causes a lot of discomfort. So it's just even pushing. I can skate switch. I need to get out and like actually skate though, and just try to push through it and see if it's just like maybe I haven't been pushed in that way. You know, it's a little different running and jumping rope from skateboarding.
No, totally.
So
Gosh,
or rollerblading. I've been seeing a lot of people rollerblade recently.
Have you?
Yeah, I've seen pictures of people going out rollerblading with their kids, like
normal rollerblades.
Like normal rollerblades.
Not extreme skating. We're talking
right.
normal.
We're talking like rollerblades.
We're bringing that
cruising.
back then? Okay, great,
Think
dude.
so.
Let's bring it back.
Think about it. When I had my first pair of skates, rollerblades, when I was like in second or third grade, and I remember my straps were different colors, and the buckles were black and they were shiny black, but my blades were like a flat matte black, and my wheels were like a neon green, dude. And I was like, I'm the coolest dude. And I remember I had the brake pads on the back, and I wanted to be cool, so I was like, I'm taking those off. So I went to the garage and I took them off, because you could unscrew them and take off the brake pads. Because you're not cool unless you have your brake pads off.
No, exactly.
Right? That's how it was when I was a
Dude,
kid.
that's exactly how it worked. You didn't get caught with the brake pads
You don't get caught with the brake pads.
You fall.
And if you do, it's one brake pad on, like, for me, when I very first started, it was only one brake pad, and it was on my left foot. I was like 7 or 8 years old. But I remember this, man. Like, if you wanted to be a cool kid in school, like, you don't want to have brake pads.
You don't want the brake
training
pads.
wheels or brake pads.
And the thing was, everyone was scared to brake because you didn't have your brake pads, but you just figure it out eventually. Yeah, dude, you turn.
Just like skiing, kind of.
It's just like skiing, just like ice skating. It's the same thing. Yeah, you learn it eventually. And then you move up to the extreme skating world. So.
Did you play a lot of roller hockey growing up?
I didn't. No, it's crazy, huh? Like the only thing I did with skating was like I was out there grinding and stuff and doing my thing with extreme skating. But that was the only thing I did with my rollerblades, man. Never did any like roller hockey or nothing. It was weird. I kind of regret that though, because that was a cool sport.
That blows my mind, because that was my neighborhood thing, man. It was like neighborhood pickup baseball. Not here. When I lived in Utah, it was pickup baseball or pickup roller hockey, and it was always in one or the other neighborhood. So if we wanted to play roller hockey, we would go. So if you're ever in Orem, Utah, it is like children like Central, and our neighborhood. There were kids in literally every house in our freaking neighborhood that were my age. It was crazy. So we had like one cul-de-sac that would always play either kickball or baseball or something like that. And then we had one that was like across the street and like probably like in the neighborhood right behind it, which is probably maybe like, I don't know, 300 or 400 yards. Super close. But in that cul-de-sac, they were always playing roller hockey. So it was like the neighborhood. You'd call your friend and be like, hey, man, do you want to go play like kickball or baseball, or do you want to play roller hockey? Because you knew certain neighborhoods were going to be playing certain sports at that time. And I played a lot of roller hockey. And when I moved up here, it like got even more intense. Because I had a buddy.
Really?
Yeah, I had a buddy who had like a net. and he had all the gear for like being a goalie, and he wanted to be a goalie, and I just wanted to play.
Yeah.
And so we would get as many kids as we could around the neighborhood, and we would just play roller hockey, man. He had like full-blown Avalanche, like Colorado Avalanche gear. We were playing like on our Game Boys. We played NHL 96, and we would like link up our Game Boys, and we'd play that, and then we'd go outside, and I'd shoot and do like knuckle puck, and I'd do like 360 backhand and like all this crazy stuff, just skate.
Dude, that's insane. We did have my buddy's cul-de-sac did have that. It was like a mile down the road from my house, and I played maybe 2 times with him. Like, I wasn't skilled at it though. Like, you were probably the agile one that was really good at that stuff. I wasn't very skilled with it, even though I was a rollerblader. So like, I mean, I could skate, but there's a lot of other things that go along with it. And then I mean, they played probably a little bit more, but that's the only time I ever heard of that going on around here. So when you said that it kind of like amplified when you came to Idaho, that's strange because I never really heard of it outside of their cul-de-sac. Like, that's the only. Maybe it was just my circle of friends. That's all I knew. But
well, this kid was homeschooled.
Okay.
And so he would it was like him, some of his friends from church would come over who rollerbladed, and he had extra sticks and stuff.
Okay.
But then we also had a couple other neighbors, like kids in the neighborhood, who'd come over and they'd play. Like, they didn't necessarily play, but I mean, my buddy, who lived like right down the road, who would host all the games because he had like a huge driveway, and then at the end of the driveway, it was almost like a miniature cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
So you could like sprint, like we would always work on like our sprints and like our puck control or whatever. We're like 12, maybe 11, but maybe even older than that. No, we were probably about 12 or 11 because I started skating when I was like 12 or 13. Yeah. But yeah, man, we had a lot of fun, dude. That dude's mom was crazy.
Yeah.
They were like some Baptists, and she went nuts, dude. I remember one time he came over to hang out with me, and we left his house, and she was just like banging on the door like, Jonathan, get home right now. And we turn around, like, I was like, is your mom yelling at you? And he's like, don't worry about it, man, she's mad at me, I need to go. I was like, all right, cool. She's banging on it, and she puts her hand through the glass, and she cut her whole arm open. Like, they had to call 911, and she was like bleeding out.
What was what?
She's crazy, dude.
She just went like legit nuts.
She like homeschooled all of her kids. So I met up with my buddy recently. We're friends on Facebook and stuff, and met up with him. His parents ended up getting a divorce shortly after like high school, after we had all graduated, and his mom was legit like psycho crazy. He was like, dude, my mom's legit psycho. Like, she would like lock us in our rooms. Like, obviously we were all homeschooled. Like, she controlled everything about our lives. He was like, my dad had to get out of there. He was like, and my dad's weird, but my dad had to get out of there, dude.
That's scary, man. Hey, maybe she's a listener to your show, though. You know what I mean? Maybe she's going to be one of your biggest fans.
Maybe this will fix her. Maybe
right. We're here to help change people's lives, right?
This is psychology and psychiatry at the same time.
Dude, I love it. I love that idea. What was I going to say? Yeah, you know what I'm bummed about is that Blake's not here. Okay, so you need to get him on here. If I'm going to come on your show, I want to come on again. You better let me come on again. We can talk about other stuff, but I want to come on and talk with Blake.
When's the next time that you can come on? We've already been on for an hour, dude, so we can wrap this up.
It's been on an hour.
We've been a solid hour, 56 minutes.
Just talking?
Just chit-chatting. That's my show, man.
Dude, I like it. This is sick.
You sound like a broadcaster. Speaking of broadcasters, I'm getting the brand new Capitol High School broadcaster on my show soon.
Oh.
And I had a professional poker player on my Pro Edge podcast, Jake.
Yeah.
And he is also he is signed with like a website. He does broadcasting for like a sports broadcasting website.
Locally here?
I'm not really sure. I haven't really checked with him on that. I just noticed it's on his it's on his profile on Facebook.
Okay.
After we had interviewed him and he added me as a friend, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't know he broadcasted as well as poker playing. So
okay.
But yeah, he's like on the he just talks casually. Yeah, if you want to talk about sports, get him on your show too, dude. Like poker playing.
This is how I gain leads, right? We're talking to each
Dude,
other on the show. This comes up. Get me in contact, bro.
Yeah,
I'd appreciate it.
I saw him yesterday. He wants to get back on my show, and I can totally get him in here, and you're more than welcome. I could totally produce that show and just put it on both platforms.
Dude,
why not?
That'd be so sick.
That'd be way sick. But yeah, let's get Blake in here. We'll geek out and we'll chit chat with him. He's fun, man. He's got a lot of interesting information.
Listen to his stuff, dude. He's always funny, man. So if he listens to this, Blake, if you're listening, I miss you, man.
I hope he's listening.
We'll
Blake.
see. Just let him know. Like, I miss him.
He's my number one podcast right
Dude,
now.
he's the
He's
man,
the number
though.
one downloaded show. What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. What was the word you were saying? I need to research this. The ASMR?
ASMR.
And that stands for, like, because
Autonomy Sensory Median Response or something.
Okay, so now I am familiar with this. Because when you mentioned that earlier, I was thinking, I thought I saw something on Netflix where people do, like, whispering.
Yeah, dude. There's some really funny shows where they'll have people listen to it for the first time. Exactly.
Yeah,
they do certain stuff, and some people are like
shit.
weird about like tapping. They'll like tap a microphone, and there's like, dude, you get
those microphones. Sorry, those microphones have like ears on them.
Yeah, they'll rub their ears
where they can rub it, and the microphone picks up where it's on their ear. So if you have really nice headphones, it's like
dude, it's like you feel like that's what the whole thing is. The tingles that you get from listening to that stuff. Now everybody wants to hate on this, right? And they're like, you're a crazy person if you like this. Let me just tell you right now, I don't consider myself crazy at all, but I will listen to ASMR videos to fall asleep all the time. So we're gonna rewind in life real quick. I went through a divorce about 5 years ago, kind of turned my life upside down for a minute, right? And by a minute, I mean quite a while. It's a couple months that like I literally was like outside of my head. I probably pretty much just like my whole mind was completely dark. Dude, the only way I could sleep, listen to ASMR videos on on YouTube. Dude, it was weird. I just like was randomly going through stuff, and like there's this guy named Baba the Barber, and if you've never checked him out, he's like this Indian barber, and it's called the Cosmic Massage, like the Cosmic Head Massage. So if anyone's listening, like you tag that in this, you're gonna get a million people watching. But it's the Cosmic Barber, and he does this Cosmic Head Massage, and it's unreal, dude. Like people just go crazy watching his stuff, so you should check it out. It's unreal. So like I started watching that, I was like, oh, and as I was watching, I was kind of like starting to relax, and I'm like, oh, this is what it's all about. Well, then you start diving into the ASMR community, and you start realizing like everybody's making videos, and all of a sudden you're following like different ASMR artists is what they're called. So you'll listen to their videos when they upload new ones, and they like crazy following on their YouTube channels and stuff. They get crazy following, like millions and millions of followers. It's huge. It's a huge community. So people want to judge, but it's no different than like listening to like your favorite like golf channel, and you're just sitting there like about to take a nap because the dude's talking all quiet into the mic, and you're like, it's the same exact thing. I'm telling you, like if you haven't checked it, check it out.
It's the way it sounds. Because most of the time people just tell me, they're like, you sound like you should probably be narrating porn. I'm like, yeah, I could be a porn narrator, sure.
Or you could just do an audiobook. But yeah, I mean, that's fine
an audiobook. Yeah, I've thought about that too.
Dude, license out a product, buy a book from someone, and get the rights to do an audiobook of it, and then sell it. That's all I gotta tell you right now.
Is that how that works?
I would. We'll talk about business after this, dude. I'm telling you, you would have a great time doing it. People would listen to you. You have a good voice to listen to. Like they wouldn't be like, "Oh, God, I gotta turn this off. It's too annoying." No, they could listen to you at work and listen to your book.
Oh, well, thank you. I think I sound a little bit different on the mic than in real life, and it's probably because I have headphones that kind of help me realize how loud and how ridiculous I might sound, and then I just kind of tweak it and tune it.
You get to actually edit your own voice on the mic.
A little bit.
Bet my boss wishes I could do that. Dude, just turn that.
Turn it off. Yeah. I don't even, dude, fortunately for me, I don't have to really talk to anybody at work. So
yeah, you're blessed.
I'm very blessed in that respect. So, well, dude, Shane, I'm gonna get you out of here because I don't want to use up any more of your time. I'm gonna steal more later though, because we're gonna get you back on with Blake.
Let's do it.
Let's try to get you back on. Maybe we'll do a collab show, and we can do like that sports broadcaster. We'll get my old teacher / broadcaster for Capital, or get that poker player on or something.
Let's do it.
It'd be a lot of fun. It'd be cool to collaborate. It's always fun to meet and talk to other podcasters and get your perspective and kind of see where you're coming from. Because like we were saying earlier, you brand yourself a certain way. You and I have very different brands,
right?
But I think they relate very well.
Yeah.
Because I do put out a lot of like sports and whatnot as far as podcasting goes, and I don't think I can keep up with your your style and your awesomeness. Dude, you put out an awesome show, man.
Well, I appreciate you, but no, you're definitely right there. So
Yeah,
we'll just leave it at that.
Completely different, but I think we work very well together,
Yeah.
and I'd love to have you back on the show. How can everybody find you who's listening right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on pretty much every platform. iTunes, obviously, for podcasters, is the biggest network for podcasting. So iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts is out now. So Google Podcasts has their own app now. So Google Podcasts, YouTube. Don't really I have a YouTube channel, and that's where they upload. So if you want to find them there, cool. But I'm not outside of the podcast. I don't have a ton of content on there. But yeah, pretty much every platform. And then, like we said earlier, Spotify. So if you want to check me out on Spotify, check it out.
Yeah, Spotify. That's my second largest platform, right behind Podcast Addict. Actually, right behind
Podcast Addict.
iTunes, and then it goes Spotify.
Podcast Addict's huge though, because they download from the iTunes database. So
yeah, right from the directory, they interlink. But check him out everywhere. No matter what app you got, you're gonna find the Game Time Guru. Make sure that you subscribe, listen to the episode, and give us 5 stars. And make sure that you subscribe to the Game Time Guru. This guy puts out awesome content. He's always interviewing very interesting people with great backgrounds, and you're missing out if he's not already in your app. So anyways, appreciate your time, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Wow.